You are now listening to Mark's Unexplained World by Mark the Medium. Available on Amazon Prime, Apple Podcast, Podbean, Spotify, Substack, YouTube and most other podcast platforms. Tonight's episode is about who was Peter Bergmann. So it's over to you now, Mark, for this week's Unknown Identity Mystery.
The Peter Bergmann case concerns the discovery of an unidentified man in County Sligo, Ireland, in the early hours of the 16th of June in 2009. The man, using the alias of Peter Bergmann, had originally checked into the Sligo City Hotel on the 12th of June, where he stayed during most of his visit, with the man's movements being captured on CCTV throughout the town. However, the details of his actions and intentions remained unknown, along with his interactions with other people being very limited, so consequently very little is known of his origins and or the reasons behind his visit. On the morning of the 16th of June in 2009, the body of the unidentified man was discovered at Roses Point Beach, which is a popular recreation destination and fishing area near Sligo. But despite conducting a 5-month investigation into his death, the police, who are otherwise known as the Gardaí in Ireland, have never been able to identify the man or develop any leads into the case. The case did receive renewed attention in the 2010s and was the subject of a 2013 documentary called The Last Days of Peter Bergmann, which was shown at the 2014 Sundance Film Festival. And as a consequence, the case developed a small following on various social media websites, where readers have constructed various theories regarding the man's background. However, still, as of the time of writing for this show, the man's recognition remains unknown and no relatives or friends have ever come forward to identify him. Greetings, Unexplainers. Thank you for tuning in once again and listening to this unexplained episode of Mark's Unexplained World. My name is Mark Hughes. I am a medium, a ufologist, a true crime buff, and a man with a very dark and disturbed sense of humour who as a kid was made to walk the plank simply because we couldn't afford a dog. But to give you a better idea of who I am and what I do, every week, usually on a Friday night, though occasionally over a weekend, allowing for bank holidays and busy weeks, I do a podcast on the many wide and various subjects that fall under the Unexplained banner. These include ufology, hauntings, disasters, and all sorts of other paranormal phenomena, including true crime, unsolved crime, serial killers, the darker side of some past celebrities, and the occasional cases of missing persons that often go unnoticed. So, if you are listening to this show on YouTube, please give us a review or opinion of the episode subject that I can reply to, a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell. Or if you are listening on any of the other podcast platforms, again, give us a like and a follow. And if you do get a few minutes, perhaps you might like to check out my social media groups and pages, including Facebook, Instagram and TikTok, which are filled daily with all things unexplained and crime. I'll put the links to some of my socials in the description. In this episode, I'm going to tell you about the unidentified story surrounding who was Peter Bergmann. And this week's necessary disclaimer: to be honest with you, Unexplainers, this story is pretty much a PG tale, but I will be talking about unidentified bodies, so may prove upsetting to some. As usual, you listen at your own discretion. Also, as usual, all comments and opinions are strictly my own, but the facts of the case still remain. I also apologise if I pronounce anything incorrectly. My English, although it is my first and only language, it made me realise the other day that I am not a very muscular man and that the strongest thing about me is my password. But anyway, enough of this silliness, so let's get back to the story. County Sligo is an area in Ireland located in the northern and western region and is part of the province of Connacht, with Sligo itself being the administrative capital and largest town in the area, along with the Sligo County Council as its local authority and a population, as of the 2022 census, of 70,198. The county was officially formed back in 1585 by Sir Henry Sidney, who was the Lord Deputy of Ireland, but it did not come into effect until the chaos of the 9 Years' War ended in 1603. County Sligo is also the setting for many texts in mythological cycles, including the story of Dermot and Grain, which has its final act played out on Ben Bulman, which is one of Ireland's most distinctive natural landmarks. Another one is the Second Battle of Moytira, which is associated with Moytira in South County Sligo, and the Brudean Sis Coran, which is set on Quiche Mountain. County Sligo, with its rich array of megalithic monuments in the surrounding area, has been an inspiration for artists and writers such as Sir Samuel Ferguson, along with the poet and Nobel laureate W.B. Yeats, who spent much of his childhood in northern Sligo and the county's landscapes, particularly the Isle of Innisfree in Lough Gill, where the inspiration for much of his poetry lay. Yeats said of the area, and I quote, "The place that has really influenced my life most is Sligo." W.D. Yeats is now buried in North County Sligo under Ben Bulben in Drumcliff. The unidentified man in question was first spotted on the Friday of the 12th of June in 2009 between the hours of 2:30 and 4 p.m. at the Ulster Bus Depot located in Derry. He then boarded a bus that was headed to Sligo carrying a black shoulder bag and a standard carry-on luggage bag. His bus then arrived at Sligo bus station at 6:28 p.m. and he then took a taxi to the Sligo City Hotel, where he paid per night in cash. And while checking in, he gave the false name of Peter Bergmann and an address that was later reported as Einstettersen, I think I've got that right, 154472, Vienna, Austria. Peter Bergmann was described as slender build, standing 1.79 metres or 5 foot 10 inches tall, had short grey hair, blue eyes, a tan complexion, and appeared to be in his late 50s or early 60s. He was neatly groomed, with his face shaven and his hair clean and combed, and was very well dressed, wearing a black leather jacket, blue trousers, socks, a black leather belt, and a pair of black shoes, and his clothes were from C&A. Anyone remember them? Well, just in case you don't, C&A was a popular fashion retail store in Europe, with most of its stores still in Germany and Austria at the time. From the man's appearance, it was assumed that he was a professional worker, with several surveillance videos also showing him smoking outside quite frequently, and according to staff and tenants at the Sligo City Hotel, the man was of Germanic descent who spoke English with a very thick German accent. During this Peter Bergmann's stay at the Sligo City Hotel, He was seen on several occasions via CCTV footage, leaving the building with a purple plastic bag full of items or personal effects. However, when he returned back from his long walk, he was no longer carrying the aforementioned plastic bag, leading to the Guardian to conclude that he must have gradually disposed of his belongings throughout Sligo and then folded the bag up and put it in his pocket. But unfortunately, the authorities were unable to identify what he threw away in the public rubbish bins, as the man was able to use the blind spots of the surveillance cameras to his advantage, with law enforcement coming to the conclusion, after noticing that his movements were very meticulous and methodical, that he knew exactly where to hide his personal belongings, which otherwise could have identified him. On the Saturday of the 13th of June in 2009, at 10:49 a.m, the man was seen walking to the Sligo post office, and there he purchased 8 82-cent stamps along with some airmail stickers. And on the following day, on the 14th of June, the man left the Sligo City Hotel between 11 and 11:30 a.m. and asked the taxi driver recommendations for a nice quiet beach where he could go for a swim. The taxi driver then stated to the man that Rose's Point, which is a village in County Sligo, would be the best place, and so drove the unidentified man to the beach. And after he briefly looked at the seashore, the man then returned with the same taxi and was dropped off at the bus station in Sligo. After this first short break in part 2, we will look at what followed during Peter Bergmann's stay at the Sligo City Hotel, the procedure for if or when even you may come across an unidentified corpse, and the start of the investigation into the stranger's background.
Ghost Planet Network. Broadcasting from the other side. Ready to tune in to terror? The Ghost Planet Network is your new home for original paranormal content, streaming straight from beyond the veil. We've got it all. Spine-tingling stories, chilling documentaries, and real paranormal investigations from the world's most haunted hotspots. Perfect for believers, skeptics, and anyone who loves a good scare. Join the paranormal TV revolution. Get unlimited access for just £12 per year. Tune in now. Email us at neil.hapra@gmail.com to sign up. That is neil.haprc@gmail.com.
On the Monday of the 15th of June, the man, or for argument's sake, from now on we'll call him Peter Bergmann, checked out of the Sligo City Hotel at 1:06 p.m, handed in his room key at reception, and then left the hotel with a black shoulder bag, a purple plastic bag, and a different black luggage bag. However, I feel I should point out here that he did not have the same black carry-on bag that he had when he first arrived in Sligo. He then walked to the bus station via Quay Street and Wine Street, stopped at the Quayside shopping centre and waited in the doorway for a number of minutes. That was until 01:16 p.m, when he left the shopping centre and walked along Wine Street in the direction of the bus station, still carrying all three of the aforementioned bags. At 1:38 p.m, whilst at the bus station, he then ordered himself a cappuccino and a toasted ham and cheese sandwich, and whilst eating his food, he began to study some pieces of paper that he had left in his pocket. After reading the pieces of paper, he then tore them in half and threw them away in a nearby rubbish bin, and boarded a bus that departed at 1:20 p.m. for a village in County Sligo called Rose's Point, which, if you remember, was the area that the aforementioned taxi driver had suggested to him earlier on the 14th of June. It was reported that Peter Bergmann had been seen by at least 16 people while he was walking on the beach at Rose's Point, casually greeting the passers-by, and the last confirmed sighting of him when he was alive was at 11:50 p.m. on the Monday of the 15th of June in 2009. The following morning at 6:45 a.m, on the Tuesday of the 16th of June, Arthur Kinsella, along with his son Brian, who was training for a triathlon, both found Peter Bergmann's body lying on the beach at Rose's Point, wearing purple striped Speedo-type swimming trunks with his underpants over the top and a navy t-shirt tucked into them both. Arthur and Brian Kinsella then called the Gardaí, and at 08:10 a.m, a Dr. Valerie McGowan officially pronounced the man dead, which then, following the discovery of the dead man's body, started a 5-month-long investigation into his identity. So, let's have a look at the procedure for finding an unidentified body in Ireland, UK, because I'm sure we will all come across at least one in our lifetime. Anyway, well, according to various sources, including the Missing People website, the procedure when, or if, you do find an unidentified body in the UK involves several steps to ensure the proper handling of the case, with the general outline of the process being:
Number 1. Contact the police.
If an unidentified body is found, the first step is to contact the local police force or Gardaí so they can assess the situation and determine if an investigation is necessary.
Number 2. Submit case details.
Police forces are required to submit all the case details to the UK Missing Person Unit, or the UK MPU for short, in relation to all missing persons who remain outstanding 72 hours after the report has been made to the police.
Number 3. DNA and forensic analysis.
The police will then use DNA checks, fingerprints, dental checks, along with any other forensic methods to try to identify the body, and if the body is found without any identity details, the police will then request a search of the aforementioned UK MPU database to see if they can find a match.
Number 4. Public assistance.
The UK MPU also allows members of the public to search the database for unidentified bodies and remains, with this information being readily available so the public, if they wish, can help with the inquiries themselves.
Number 5. Legal considerations.
The police have a duty of care towards the missing person and need to take reasonable steps to mitigate any risks, so they should be clear on what activities they are agreeing to undertake and carefully document the lines of inquiry.
Number 6. Public reporting.
If someone finds an unidentified body, they can report it to the police, and the police may ask for the person's home to be searched with a relative's permission.
Number 7. legal rights.
And it is important to understand the legal rights and responsibilities involved in the investigation and reporting of missing people and identified bodies.
Number 8, support and advice.
The National Crime Agency and other organisations provide support and advice to police forces investigating missing person cases and assist in the identification of bodies and remains.
And last of all, number 9, emergency procedures.
And in an emergency, always call 999, but if you recognise an unidentified case after searching the database, please complete the online form providing as much information as possible. These procedures are designed to provide closure to the families of the deceased and to ensure that the investigation is conducted in accordance with the law and the needs of the deceased's loved ones. According to the post-mortem report, the body of the man, meaning Peter Bergmann of course, that was found on Roses Point Beach, was found with most of his clothes left behind on the shore, along with no wallet, money or any other form of identification. But not only that, it was also noted that the labels on every item of clothing found on his person had been removed, and even though the man had been washed up onto the beach, the pathologist Clive Kilgarlan found no evidence of, and I quote, classic saltwater drowning, along with any signs of any foul play that would have given reason to believe the man's death was a possible homicide. The post-mortem report also noted that the man's teeth were in good condition, but did show signs of frequent dental work during his life, with evidence of bridging, root canals and crowns, along with a full gold tooth on the upper back right side of his mouth, and a small silver filling along the gum of the tooth on the left side of his lower jaw. On an interesting side note here, a post-mortem examination, which is also referred to as an autopsy, obduction, necropsy, which is a term used for non-human animals, or autophagia cadaverum. It is a surgical procedure that consists of a thorough examination of a corpse by dissection to determine the cause, the mode and the manner of death. The examination may also be performed to evaluate any disease or injury that may have been present for research or educational purposes. Autopsies are usually performed by a specialised medical doctor called a pathologist, but only a small portion of deaths require an autopsy to be performed under certain circumstances, and in most cases a medical examiner or coroner can determine the cause of death. Despite Peter Bergmann's well-groomed and dressed exterior, the pathologist did note that the man was in fact in very poor health, with the post-mortem showing that he had both advanced stages of prostate cancer and bone tumours, along with signs of previous ischemic heart disease or coronary artery disease. And more notably, for a man who had such serious health conditions, the toxicology report also stated that he had no medication of any sort in his system, with the pathologist also noting that due to the man's health status, he would have been in significant pain and so would have required prescription pain medication or at least over-the-counter pain relievers. The police searched databases for photographic, fingerprint and DNA matches, however they came up blank, and after a 5-month investigation, the body, meaning Peter Bergmann of course, was finally buried in an unmarked grave in Sligo, with the funeral being attended by 4 Gardaí. After this second short break, in part 3, we will look at a brief history of the Gardaí, the continued investigation and its speculation of who Peter Bergmann might have been, and a short look at a similar case that happened in Australia.
Fright Nights was established in 1999 as the first company in the world to offer overnight ghost hunt experiences to the general public, pioneering paranormal events since the last century. Fright Nights operate at hundreds of the UK's most haunted and exclusive venues. All events have their own team of experienced paranormal investigators, mediums and psychics. They have a VIP members club for regular returning guests, offering loyalty discounts and exclusive invitation-only events. They can also host private events for your family and friends. You can contact them on 07 852 998 628 or email them at office@frightnights.co.uk. Or take a look at their website at www.frightnights.co.uk, where you can see the many locations they investigate and learn about them and the opportunities they have available. Hundreds of ghost hunters join Fright Nights every month for the most thrilling ghost hunting experiences they'll never forget. If you haven't been on a ghost hunt before, then why not join them to see what it's all about? Why not visit their social media sites for up-to-date information on all the places they visit and to see what's coming up in the future? They look forward to seeing you all soon. Fright Nights Ghost Hunting Events. Remember, only the original will do.
According to Wikipedia, Garda Síochána, meaning the Guardians of the Peace, are the national police and security service of the Republic of Ireland, but it is more commonly referred to as the Garda or the Guards, with the service being headed by the Garda Commissioner, who is appointed by the Irish government, with its headquarters in Dublin's Phoenix Park. Since the formation of the Garda Síochána in 1923, it has been a predominantly unarmed force, and so more than 3/4 of the service do not routinely carry firearms, and as of the June 2025, the police service itself had 14,525 sworn members, including 302 sworn reserve members and 3,669 civilian staff. Operationally, the Garda Síochána is organised into 4 geographical regions, which include the East, the Northwest, the South and the Dublin metropolitan regions, which in turn are broken into divisions, districts and sub-districts. The service is also the main law enforcement and security agency in the state, acting at local and national levels, with its roles including crime detection and prevention, drug enforcement, road traffic enforcement and accident investigation, along with any diplomatic and witness protection responsibilities, and provides community policing assistance. Special units exist within the Garda Síochána for specific areas of work, such as organised crime prevention, migration management and cybercrime, along with a Central Garda Technical Bureau, a mounted unit and a K9 unit, with the service even having its own college. Members of the Garda Síochána are not free to join general trade unions, but are represented by 4 rank-based organisations, and there is also an association for retired members of the force. Getting back to our hero, Peter Bergmann, some sources say that during the police investigation following his death, it was discovered that the home address he gave at the Sligo City Hotel as Einsttersen 15 4472 Vienna, Austria, did in fact belong to a vacant lot. However, others have pointed out that a street with the reported spelling of Einsttersen does not even exist in either Austria or Germany, and additionally, Vienna's postcodes begin with the number 1 rather than a number 4, which means that the postcode of 4472 is unassigned. But it is unclear as to how the police would have been able to establish either that the address was fake, that it was tied to a vacant lot, or whether they simply determined that the address, well, it just did not exist. One thing is certain, though, and that is that the unidentified man wanted to remain unidentified, and that he preemptively planned his moves just so he could stay that way. In 2015, the French newspaper called Le Monde reported that they had contacted the Austrian law enforcement about the Peter Bergmann case, saying that the Austrian police never received any information from the Gardaí regarding the unidentified man, adding that there is no Interpol notice for the unidentified man simply because the body did not fall into either of the 2 Interpol categories, meaning Austrian Ireland, of course, for missing or wanted persons. Also adding that it is the responsibility of the man's country of origin to report him as missing. Of course, Peter Bergmann is not the only deceased person to have appeared out of nowhere, as this case is has remarkably similar connotations as a case from the 1940s in Australia. It all started on the 1st of December in 1948 at 6:30 a.m. when the police were contacted after the body of a man was discovered on Somerton Park Bench near Glenelg, which is about 7 miles southwest of Adelaide in South Australia.
That's the beach.
Is that the... Oh, is it? Oh, okay. Sorry.
He wasn't slumped on a bench.
Oh, I got you, right. The exact location of the unidentified man was that he was found lying in the sand across from the crippled children's home, which was on the corner of the Esplanade and Bickford Terrace, and according to one of the pathologists, John Burton Cleland, the unidentified man was of a British appearance, in top physical condition, and was thought to be around the 40 to 45 age bracket, adding that he was 5 foot 11 inches tall, grey eyes, fair to ginger-coloured hair, although slightly grey around the temples, and like our hero, Peter Bergmann, it appeared that all the labels on his clothes had also been removed. He was also found to be clean-shaven, but carried no identification, which is what led the Adelaide police to suspect that he had committed suicide. After many months of police investigation into the identity of the unknown man, which turned up nothing but blanks, in 1949 the body of the Somerton Man was buried in Adelaide West Terrace Cemetery, where the Salvation conducted the service, and with the South Australian Grandstand Bookmakers Association paying for the funeral, which saved the man from a pauper's burial. But many years later, on the 26th of July in 2022, it was announced that the Somerton Man's DNA analysis has identified him as Carl Charles Webb, who was an electrical engineer and instrument maker born in Melbourne in 1905. They arrived at the result by comparing DNA hairs stuck in a plaster bust of the man's head with samples uploaded by millions of people around the world in online databases that are used to create family trees. The DNA match is still as yet, at the time of recording this show anyway, to be formally confirmed by the South Australia coroner. However, a Professor Derek Abbott of Adelaide University, who has been researching the case for many years, says that he is 99.9% confident that they have correctly identified the Somerton Man. I have done an episode of Mark's Unexplained World on the Somerton Man, and it's available as an extra show wherever you get your podcasts. No relatives or friends have ever come forward to confirm the real identification of Peter Bergmann, and despite the many public appeals from both the Austrian and German newspapers, he still today remains unidentified.
Thank you all for taking the time out to listen to this episode of Mark's Unexplained World. In our next episode, show number 187, we are going to be looking at the Little Albert experiment. The Little Albert experiment tested whether an infant child could be classically conditioned to fear a neutral stimulus. By pairing a white rat with a loud noise, they induced fear that later generalised to similar furry objects, demonstrated learned emotional responses, but also raising major ethical concerns by today's standards.
This show was written and researched by myself, Mark Hughes, and proofread and edited by Linda Hughes. The pronunciations of all the names, of course, was me. The voice actors in this episode were Mark Hughes, Linda Hughes and Denise Poolar, with special thanks to Neil Packer and the staff of the Haunted Antiques Paranormal Research Centre in Hinckley and Ghost Planet Network. And of course a big thank you to everyone for listening. We never run out of ideas here at the office for Mark's Unexplained World podcast, but if you know of any other intriguing stories under the Unexplained banner, including ufology, hauntings, disasters and any other sort of paranormal phenomena, as well as true crime, unsolved crime and missing people, just drop me a direct message and I'll see what I can do. I'll also include the name of the person who suggested the idea in the end credits for the podcast, if they're happy for me to do so, of course. And again, just to add, if you are listening to this show on YouTube, please give us a review and a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And if you are listening on any of the other podcast platforms, again, give us a like and a follow. I thank you in advance. Mark's Unexplained World, because there's more to the paranormal than meets the third eye. And remember, guys, keep it real, because being real is better than being perfect. No AI was used or harmed in the making of this or any other episode of Mark's Unexplained World. This show and all its contents are covered by basic copyright of Mark the Medium.